I don't know if you guys operate the same way I do during the off season, but anytime I see like an ESPN, a Bleacher Report, CBS Sports article talking about free agents and where they could end up, I love to click into the article and just command F my team and see if they're in the landing spots. And that was exactly the case, as 2 free agents were linked to the Broncos in a PFF article. So we're going to break down both of those potential targets for the Broncos. Now, before we get too deep in any free agency conversation, I do think it's important to set the table by looking at what Denver has to work with. They currently are slated to have $56+ million in salary cap space. That is more than enough to sign any notable free agent that you would like. I will also add this year's free agency class, it's not star-studded, so I don't expect to see many blockbuster contracts given out. Now, before we look at that first free agent target for the Broncos, we have gone 11 straight videos with 300 or more likes, so salute to everyone that's been liking the video down below. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. Let's make it 12 in a row. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. So, with that being said, let's turn our attention to Chris Godwin, the Buccaneers wide receiver, one of 2 free agents that Pro Football Focus linked to the Denver Broncos. Some background on Godwin, and then we'll get more nitty-gritty into him. So, unfortunately, he suffered a season-ending ankle injury halfway through the 2024 season. Fantasy owners remember that all too well. He was on pace for the best year of his NFL career. 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns, so a huge bummer for him to have that injury, on top of it being a contract year, which means he likely will not make as much money as he would have if he played out the entire year. He's not too old. He's been in the NFL for a while now. I think 8 seasons with the Bucs, but he's still not even 30 years old, and he'll turn 29 in February. We saw what Calvin Ridley got in free agency last year, and he was around the same age as Godwin is going to be this free agency cycle. So there is probably a good payday still coming in for Godwin. He was going to put up yet another straight 1,000-yard season. He had 5 touchdowns in 7 games. He was looking like the best version of himself to date. I'm all in on adding more weapons for Bo Nix. I think this is an offseason where the process should be, let's surround Nix with talent. Now, the question really becomes then, not should we, but who should we add, right? I am past the point of should the Broncos make some moves and add some names to their surrounding cast to Nix. I think you've got a good quarterback on a rookie contract. It makes all the sense in the world. So if they add Godwin and it doesn't work out, I'm not going to fault the decision to make an adjustment or make an addition. It's probably going to be which addition should be made. That is the question that could be scrutinized later on. But in full transparency and honesty, I say all this as what I would do, but I'm not the GM, so who cares what I think? I'm not so sure that George and Sean Payton feel the same way. I think after last offseason, we learned that they are pretty comfortable in betting on some of their draft picks, right? They didn't go out and make any major moves in free agency. They trusted Riley Moss and Marvin Mims and Alex Forsythe and some of those other guys to make bigger stride forwards in 2024. So I would not be surprised if, upon looking over their roster, they decide, we don't need to go out and make a big signing at receiver. We've got Courtland Sutton, Devon Vele, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, all on rookie contracts, all played pretty well. We do not need to divulge in a $20 million receiver. Personally, I would, but I would not be surprised if they land at that conclusion. Now, something that could push the Broncos in Godwin's direction is it's not a very good receiver class. It's not like previous years where, just take last year, for example. You had 3 guys go in the top 10. I don't think we'll see more than 3 go in round 1. Hunter, McMillan, Burden, or Emeka Ibuka, one of those guys probably. How about this? The 3 receivers that go round 1 this year, I don't think would have gone, if you exclude Hunter because he's more of a flex, but just take McMillan, Burden, and Ibuka, I don't think they would have gone round 1 last year. To me, it just is a very weak wide receiver draft class from the top. So if it's not a very good year to go out fishing for a receiver in the draft, you might have to pony up in free agency, which is why I could see Godwin still getting a decent payday 3 years, $63 million contract is what I'm projecting he yields. That's an average of $21 million, making him a top 20 highest paid receiver in football. Coming off an ankle injury and knocking on the door of 30 years old, that's not too shabby. It would probably be about $40 million guaranteed. So really a 2-year, $40 million-ish contract, which if I were the Broncos, I'd be comfortable offering, especially with the way he played before going down last season. Surrounding Bo Nix with that type of receiver would be a ton of fun in 2025. And on top of fun, you need firepower if you're going to take down the Kansas City Chiefs. So let me know in the comment section, do you want to add Chris Godwin? Yes or no? I want to hear from you. It's not PD Sports, it's Chat Sports, so give me your thoughts in the comment section. If you're on the fence, let me just visualize or help you visualize this. Ashton Jeanty in the backfield, Godwin, Sutton, and Mims at receiver, and then Colston Loveland at tight end. This is just a hypothetical potential offense. If you don't think Jeanty's going to fall to 20 or the Broncos are going to pick Jeanty, okay, that's fine. Swap out that first-round pick with Tyler Warren and then insert Caleb Johnson at running back. We can, figure that out later, but this is just a rough idea as to what the offense could look like in a 6-month change from the end of the season to the start of the 2025 season with a brand new starting running back, starting tight end, and number 1, number 2 receiver alongside Courtland Sutton. I think if you're on the fence, that picture right there should seal it for you. Now, free agent number 2. Safety Jevon Holland. Not a household name, but a very good player for the Dolphins up until this season. And that's what we have to discuss. First, I do want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. All you do is pick more or less on at least 2 player stat projections. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Plus, I do a lot of fun things like this, putting Jaden Daniels' passing yards at 0.5. So download PrizePicks right now and get started today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Switching gears back to Jevon Holland, the former second-round pick out of Oregon. He's from Canada, by the way, so I don't know. Just kind of cool. By the Dolphins, has been a routine starter for this defense essentially since day one. There's only 3 games that he has played in that he did not start. So right from the jump, he was an immediate impact on this Dolphins defense. I compared him like 2 years ago to kind of like Nick Bonito or Jonathan Cooper this year for the Broncos in terms of, wow, I had never heard of that guy until my team played the Broncos. Holland was that player for the Dolphins where not even your above-average NFL fan had heard of him until their team played Miami. And then at halftime, they were looking up, trying to be discreet about it. Who is number 8? Because he is terrorizing our team. So he's going to be just 25 years old when free agency gets underway. A lot of football left in him. The issue is, and this is where the other shoe drops, he had a bad 2024 season. If you know a Dolphins fan, they'll be very quick to tell you that. No interceptions, played in 15 games. He was bad in coverage. He didn't make any big splash takeaways or anything like that. It was the worst year of his 4-year career, and it's unfortunate that it happened in a contract season for him. But it might be fortunate for the Broncos because it could make him a whole lot cheaper. And if you notice a trend here, good, good, he's due. So now's the time, right? Buy low. I'm not a stonk guy, but this seems like a pretty good time to invest just based on his career path, which is why I'm open to the idea of signing Holland. I know that with the way he played in 2024, that's kind of a crazy thing to say. But yeah, I'm willing to look at his 4-year career and see a good amount of good and some bad. And if the price is right, I'm willing to take a gamble on what was 2 really good seasons one average season, and then one bad season. Plus, the Broncos safety room, outside of Brandon Jones, it was not very inspiring this past season. PJ Locke, he's got 1 year left on his deal. They can save about $3 million-ish if they move on from him. I do not expect to see PJ Locke return as the team's undoubted starter. There's going to be some competition brought in. They're just not going to hand him the job over again. So does that mean they go with like Devon Key, who was really good in preseason? DeLaron Turner-Yell missed all of 2024. He suffered a torn ACL in 2023, and they just didn't really have a roster spot for him when he got healthy midway through 2024. So they kept him on IR for the entire season, or the PUP list the entire season, so they didn't have to lose him to the waiver wire or free agency. But we haven't really seen up much from J.L. Skinner, the second-year man now out of Boise State. I would not be opposed to just taking the Dolphins safety room and bringing it over to Denver, because that's what you would have with Brandon Jones and Holland, two guys that played pretty well together last season, so maybe the chemistry can carry over to Mile High. Quick reminder to go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. We are your number one spot for all things Broncos free agency coverage, news, rumors, signings, all that stuff. So make sure you join 32,230 strong here at the Broncos Breakdown. Turning things over to Kiper in the draft. Let's say the Broncos want to add to their safety room, but they don't want to do it in free agency. They don't want to pay. Okay, that's fine. Here are the top 10 safeties from Kiper. This is just a starting point of names to get you guys familiar with what is a very strong safety class altogether. Ultimately, I think the draft is probably more favorable than free agency. It's a very strong draft class at safety. That's not a routine thing year in and year out. You've got your first, second, and third round pick. I would not be opposed to Genty, Warren, running back tight end combination in rounds 1 and 2. Whichever one you don't get in round 1, you get in round 2. And then in round 3, you can find maybe your next Justin Simmons. He was a third-round pick. Xavier Watts, the Notre Dame safety. Nick Emenwari, the South Carolina safety. He's a lengthy stud with great ball skills. I am not opposed to waiting on a safety until round 3, because you can find quality safeties in the middle of the draft. I mean, just Justin Simmons, like I said, Jesse Bates, he was a third-round pick, I believe, out of Wake Forest to the Bengals. So you can find talented safeties in the middle of the draft. Now, which player would you want the Broncos to sign? Chris Godwin or Holland? I'd go with Godwin. He's just a better player, so I don't think that really requires much of a defense. He'd be a little bit more expensive, but I'm willing to invest a little bit more offensively, given how much room you have surrounding Bo Nix cap space-wise with him on a rookie contract. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Enjoy the championship games, and I'll see you all tomorrow.